3 centuries ago, someone solved winter heating without electricity, insulation, or constant fire. He used weight, time, and stone. While neighbors woke every hour to feed their stoves, his cabin released yesterday's heat all night long. The quiet worked better than flames ever had. Most people on the frontier believed warmth was something you had to keep chasing. Miss a feeding, fall asleep too long, let the flames dip for even a moment. And winter would punish you for it. Heat was treated like a fragile thing, always leaking, always running out, always demanding more effort. But one man looked at those endless nights differently. He wondered why warmth had to disappear the moment the fire stopped, why survival depended on exhaustion, and why every solution required constant reaction instead of control. This story is about what happened when he stopped trying to create heat endlessly and focused on what no one else valued keeping it. Before you continue, answer this in the comments. Would you rather keep feeding the fire all night or build something that keeps working after the fire is gone? Type feed or store. Stay with it, because once you see what he changed, you'll understand why winter finally stopped demanding his attention. The winter came early and hard, without warning and without mercy. 1 week, the valley still moved, people walking freely between cabins, smoke rising lazily from chimneys. The next, everything tightened. Snow arrived thick and heavy, driven by wind that never seemed to rest. The temperature dropped fast, faster than anyone expected, and once it dropped, it stayed there. Cabins across the valley braced for what everyone understood as a siege. Men stacked firewood inside until living spaces shrank. Blankets were nailed over windows, cutting out light along with drafts. Beds were dragged closer to stoves, sometimes close enough to scorch blankets, because distance meant danger. Every movement became calculated. Every mistake carried a cost. People prepared for sleepless nights, not because they feared dreams, but because they feared the fire dying. Winter in the valley was never a single event. It was pressure applied slowly and constantly. Fires demanded attention every hour. Water froze if it was set down in the wrong place. Cold crept along floors first, then walls, then into bones. People learned to listen in their sleep for changes in sound. The crackle of fire fading, the hiss of wind growing louder. Everyone prepared the same way because everyone believed the same thing. That heat had to be fought for constantly. That warmth was something you had to feed without pause. Everyone except him. While others rushed to cut more wood, he hauled stone. While neighbors focused on what would burn, he focused on what would last. And at the time, no one understood why. Week after week, while the valley prepared for fire, he carried rounded rocks from the creek bed. He chose them carefully. Smooth stones that fit tightly together, heavy enough to matter. One by one, he packed them into a deep frame beneath his cabin floor. Layer after layer, thousands of pounds. The work was slow and exhausting, and it made no visible sense to anyone watching. People stopped to laugh. Rocks don't make heat. Rocks don't burn. Rocks don't keep you alive at 40 below. To them, heat meant flame. Warmth meant fire. Anything else looked like wasted effort. They asked why he wasn't cutting wood like everyone else. Why he was exhausting himself on something that wouldn't even glow. He said little. He worked steadily. Each stone added weight, not just physically, but conceptually. He wasn't building upward like everyone else. He was building down, preparing not for fire, but for retention. When the stone bed was finished, the strangest part came. Instead of routing his stovepipe straight through the roof, he ran it down through the floor and into the stone before venting it outside. To the neighbors, this looked insane. Why waste heat underground? Why weaken the stove? Why gamble your life on rocks? What they didn't understand was that he wasn't trying to make more heat. He was trying to stop losing it. Stone behaves differently than iron. Iron heats fast and cools fast. The moment a fire dies, the warmth disappears. Stone heats slowly, reluctantly, but once warm, it refuses to let go. That was the principle he was betting his winter on. For weeks before the cold peaked, he burned modest fires. Nothing dramatic, no roaring flames, just steady, controlled heat. Hour after hour, day after day, the exhaust from his stove traveled through the rock bed before escaping outside. Every foot of pipe surrendered heat to the stone. Every hour added energy quietly and visibly. The stones absorbed it without complaint. They didn't glow. They didn't change color. They simply warmed, slowly and deeply. The floor above them became slightly warm to the touch, not enough to notice at first, but enough to matter. While others burned hard and fast, consuming wood at alarming rates, he burned patiently. He wasn't heating air, he was charging mass. By the time the real cold arrived, the rock beneath his cabin wasn't cold anymore. It was full. This was not obvious from the outside. Smoke still rose. His cabin looked ordinary. That invisibility was part of the design. Nothing about it suggested comfort. Nothing hinted at what was coming. The stones waited, and winter came. The blizzard hit brutally. Temperatures plunged. Wind tore through the valley. Snow buried cabins to their eaves. That's when everyone did what they always did. They fed their fires constantly, every hour, all night. Cabins cooled the moment flames dipped. Water froze if it sat too far from the stove. Men slept lightly, waking often to poke embers, terrified of waking to ice. The fight never stopped. Heat surged and vanished in cycles that exhausted both fuel and people. Smoke hung heavy in the valley. Wet wood smoked instead of burned. Coughing became common. Faces hollowed. Hands cracked and bled. The cold wasn't dramatic. It was relentless. That same night, he let his fire die. No flames, no glowing iron, no emergency woodpile beside the stove. To anyone watching, it would have looked like surrender. Instead, something incredible happened. The floor stayed warm. Not hot, not uncomfortable, just warm. The heat stored in the stone rose gently into the cabin, evenly, steadily, with nowhere else to go. Hours passed. The storm raged. His cabin barely changed temperature. While others fought the cold, he slept. Chapter 3. A different kind of warmth. He woke once in the night, confused. Not by freezing air, but by the unfamiliar comfort of a winter night without fire. The cabin was quiet. No crackling, no rushing flame. Just stillness and warmth. Heat radiated upward from the floor, surrounding the body instead of blasting from a single point. There were no hot and cold zones, no frantic adjustments. The warmth felt natural, as if the cabin itself had become alive. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, nothing changed. The stone released heat slowly, evenly, refusing to rush or waste itself. This was warmth without drama, comfort without noise. When morning came, neighbors looked like ghosts, exhausted, smoke-stained, half-frozen. They assumed he must be worse. No fire meant death as far as they understood it. Instead, they found him calm, rested, and warm. No fire burning, no panic. Just a cabin that refused to surrender its heat. The stone bed had transformed the cabin into something new. Not a shelter that fought winter, but a shelter that ignored it. The system worked because it followed physics instead of tradition. Heat captured instead of wasted, stored instead of burned away, released slowly instead of all at once. The rock bed smoothed out temperature swings. No blazing heat, no sudden cold, just balance. And balance is what winter can't defeat. While others reacted constantly, he coasted. While they burned through supplies, he conserved. The difference wasn't strength, it was timing. Heat that lasted mattered more than heat that surged. Winter thrives on extremes. Sudden loss, sudden demand. The stone bed removed extremes entirely. It turned chaos into rhythm. People didn't change immediately, they rarely do, but they watched. And once winter loosened its grip, questions followed. By spring, the valley understood something new. Fire alone was not enough. Insulation alone was not enough. Strength alone was not enough. What mattered was mass, time, patience, the ability to hold what you had instead of constantly replacing it. The stone bed did not defeat winter. It made winter irrelevant. That is why the idea lasted. Not because it was clever, but because it worked. When heat stops escaping, survival stops being a fight, and winter loses its power when it can no longer force you to react. They laughed because it didn't look like effort. No roaring flames. No midnight panic. No proof that he was doing something. But winter doesn't reward effort, it rewards efficiency. While everyone else stayed awake reacting, he slept while yesterday's work kept going without him. That's the part people miss. The real advantage wasn't warmth, it was freedom from constant reaction. Before you leave, lock this in. Comment store. If this changed how you think about solving problems that never stop demanding attention, just that word. And if stories like this keep rewiring how you see old problems, subscribe. Not because you're chasing hacks, but because once you notice how quiet solutions outperform loud ones, you start seeing them everywhere. And the next time something looks unimpressive, you'll remember why that matters.